Hello and welcome to another lecture of the course Aquaculture. The topic we are going to discuss today is type of feeds used in aquaculture. This topic I shall be discussing in two parts. So let's start first part of the topic, types of feeds used in aquaculture. A complete diet meets the nutrient and energy requirement of the animal for its maintenance, growth, reproduction. And we need to keep this thing in mind when we are rearing some animal in captivity. Here we are discussing fish culture, so or culture of aquatic organisms. So, as we have discussed earlier, also that what type of feed we have to give the candidate species used in aquaculture, that depends a lot on our information on the basic biological parameters of that species, especially the feeding biology of that species, that what kind of food it will prefer in nature, what kind of food it prefers, what is its feeding habit, whether it consumes food of plant origin or animal origin, or it may accept both kind of foods. Again, whether the fish or the other aquatic species, whatever you are culturing, whether that is consuming the same kind of food in all its life stages, or different life stages have specific type of food requirements of that particular aquatic organism. All this information we need to have beforehand when we are going to provide them the artificial feed from outside. Here we are not depending on the natural food, and we have to take care of all the nutrient requirements in order to prepare a nutritionally balanced diet to the candidate species that we are cultivating. So while doing so, how we can do that, we have discussed earlier also, you may recall that in order to develop an idea that what kind of food we have to offer, what we can do, first we must know that whether the fish is consuming, say for example, it's herbivorous or carnivorous or omnivorous. So based on the gut content analysis or other methods that can be used to study the feeding habit, uh, we can then go on identifying the food organisms on which this fish is depending in nature, and then we can go for analyzing the biochemical composition or proximate composition of the whole fish body or carcass, and also the food organisms that the fish feeds upon. So if we are having the composition of the food items that fish is consuming and the proximate composition or biochemical composition or nutrient composition of the whole fish body, then we can have an idea that what are different nutrients which are present there, and how the nutrients which are present in the body are being supplied by the food items, what kind of food items may be supplying these nutrients to the fish. So the quality of nutrients, then we can go on scanning by studying the composition of the food items. So these are some of the steps which are done, by researchers at many places, and then they come up with some kind of information that okay, this fish needs this much of crude protein, this much of crude fat. These essential fatty acids and essential amino acids are to be taken care of. How much of the water soluble vitamins or fat soluble vitamins and different kind of minerals. So all that information you get, and also since nutrient requirement changes according to the life stage of the fish or any other aquatic organism, so you will also have information beforehand that different life stages may require what kind of variation in different nutrients. Accordingly, we will have to prepare the diet, because here we are going to offer them feed from outside. and they are habitual of accepting the food from natural environment. So they will have to adapt to these conditions. So we have to make the feed not only nutritionally balanced, but the feed should be such that fish should come to the feed to feed upon, and it should be palatable, it should be attractable. So we have to prepare the feed in a sense that the fish accepts it, consumes it, and then it has all the qualities of getting digested easily. Digestibility should be good. Water stability of the diet should be good, that until the fish feeds upon the feed, the nutrient leaching should not start, or at least significant nutrient leaching does not occur. So all such things we will have to keep in mind while preparing feed, or deciding on what type of feed we have to provide to the candidate species in aquaculture. The feeding of aquatic animals such as fish poses some problems that we usually do not encounter in case of terrestrial animals. Why? Because here the feed is provided inside the water, in the aquatic environment. So if you are putting in your prepared feed in water, then you know what will happen. The chances of nutrient leaching is there, and we need to have the feed water stable. The water stability should be enough so that the fish consumes the diet without significant nutrient leaching that I have just talked about. And there should be minimal losses of water soluble nutrients due to leaching. So these things you will have to take into consideration, that the feed you are providing, that must be nutritionally balanced, that must attract to the fish for consumption, that must be palatable, that must have the enough water stability to not lose the nutrients by leaching process until the fish consumes it. So that these are the considerations on when selecting or preparing the type the feed, and what type of feed we have to prepare and offer to the fish. If adequate attention is not given to these problems during the course of feed manufacture, there may be substantial loss of nutrients. If you are not considering these things, then you may have not only significant loss of feed in the water, which will be unconsumed, that will deteriorate water also, and ultimately when fish is not consuming the feed, then you are not able to record the expected growth in the fish that you are targeting in your aquaculture practice. So these are very important considerations before going for preparing the type of feed required for the candidate species in your aquaculture practice. These are the type of feeds that you need to offer the fish according to life stages. I told you that in different life stages, you will have to study what kind of food the fish requires and what kind of food we can offer them to. Why this is important? Why I am telling you all this? Why people have explained this? Because if you go and see the farmers who are not doing it on a large commercial basis or on a large scale, they often provide the same kind of feed, same type of feed, same type of feeding method to all the life stages. Whichever life stage they have, they will provide only one method of feeding. For example, I have seen farmers who are just broadcasting the powdered form of feed ingredient that they are having. Sometimes one feed ingredient, only rice bran or wheat bran, or sometimes they mix it with the oil cake, and again it is broadcasted no matter which life stage they are having. And by doing this, it may not be appropriate for all the life stages. Or there are some farmers who become little innovative. They mix 1, 2 or 3 or sometimes more ingredients, and then prepare a dough and make it in a dough form and prepare the balls. Now they put balls at different places in dough balls at different places in the pond, and the size of the ball will be big enough that can be nibbled upon by small fishes, and maybe if some very large fish is there that can consume, but usually that ball is quite big. uh, that is not suitable, at least for fries and larvae. So and fingerlings also, fingerlings can also will not be able to consume that ball, usually more than 1 inch or sometimes 2 inch in diameter or more. So they just put those balls, you know, they prepare, while preparing the ball, they add binders also, certain kind of flour or other things which binds. So that is stable in its form in the water for some time. But the problem is that larvae need food very near to them and very frequently, and their mouth size is very small. Similar for fry, they also need food from, which is suitable for their mouth size. Not all the fishes show nibbling type of feeding method. So depending on the biology of the fish, the biology of the life stage which you are culturing, which you are rearing in your pond, you need to decide on type of feeds. So we have, based on the life stages, we have larval or starter feeds, we have fry feeds, transitional feeds or conversion and transition feed, fingerling feeds, grower feed, and broodstock feed, in order to meet the nutrient requirement of a specific life stages. One by one we can discuss here. Larval feed is the first feed that is offered to the young fish, and it is less than 400 micrometer in size, very small. You will have to take care what is the mouth size of the life stage which you are providing feed. First feeding of larvae is done when they nearly use up their yolk material, and they are in the search of exogenous food. From this point, exogenous feeding in larvae begins. So as soon as yolk sac absorbs, if you visit to hatcheries, there is mass mortality at this stage in many hatcheries if they have not devised a better feeding strategy. So this is very crucial time because they do not have any energy reserve. I think there must be somewhere at this development stage, larvae have virtually no nutrient reserves. Thus, it is critical that they consume the feed or they will rapidly starve to death. And that is what happens. That if you are not monitoring the yolk sac absorption in the hatchery, and if yolk sac absorption has been observed and you are unable to provide the type of food that they require, then you will encounter mass mortality. They do not have any nutrient reserve by that time. So this care should be taken to provide the appropriate food for the larvae at the appropriate time in order to get better results. So that is why the size is written here. Larval feeds must possess several characteristics for optimal performance. The feed must be readily consumed by larvae. Again, it's not only nutrient requirement, it's not only nutritionally balanced feed formulation, but that should be palatable to larvae also. They should consume it. That feed should attract them. They should feed upon the feed which you are offering to. They must get the food of the desired size, less than their mouth size, which they are not having any problem. The feed must be highly digestible because they are very young, they are very tender. Their digestive tract may not be fully functional. So accordingly, you will have to provide very food which is highly digestible. As in case of many animals, even in case of humans, we have different type of diets for the growing child. So in the very beginning, we have some other kind of diet, then we shift to from milk, we shift to some kind of cereals and all. So liquid, semi-liquid, and then solid. We come to solid stage. So here also you will have to take care of the biology, the behavior, feeding behavior of larvae, and accordingly you will have to provide some food which is easily digestible and can provide energy to the larvae. And this kind of diet will have to be provided to the larvae very frequently. At that stage, at younger stage, the larvae or the life stage of the fish that requires energy very frequently. Feed must be highly water stable, so that because you are providing them very small size food, so water stability may be a challenge, but you will have to ensure that the feed is water stable, having good water stability, to maintain water quality as well as the thereby limiting bacterial contamination of the culture system. It's not only that they are not getting whatever nutrients you are providing in the feed. If nutrient leaching is there, they will not be getting the nutrients that you have already kept in the feed. But the other problem is that nutrient leaching from the diet will deteriorate water quality also, and these larvae are very sensitive to water quality parameters. So if water quality gets deteriorated, there may be mortality, not because of the feed but because of deteriorating water quality. Types of larval feeds: we have minced diets that we can provide. A feed paste is prepared by homogenizing wet or wet and dry ingredients. We have to prepare minced diet. So homogenize wet or wet and dry ingredients with additions of minerals and vitamin premix and binders, and feed as such. So you can simply mince different kind of ingredients by homogenizing either dry ingredients. If you are using, you will have to do it properly, or you can mix dry and wet. You can use wet ingredients only, but binders should be there. Vitamin and mineral premix should also be there for meeting the nutrient requirement of the larvae. Wet microparticulate diet: a custard diet prepared with chicken eggs, prawn flesh, clams, fish solubles, vitamins, minerals, feeding stimulants and wheat flour, and homogenizing to get fine particles out of these ingredients. The desired size can be obtained by sieving. You can mix all these ingredients, or the choice of ingredients may vary according to the region, according to the species which you are culturing. So that can be done. Get the desired size of the material accordingly. These are simply not promoting any company or any brand, but just to show you that these kind of products are available. Golden pearl reef and larval fish having 100 to 200 micron size. Here in case of larval feed for shrimp and fish larvae by microcoating technology. So there are different companies with different brands. You can have, but always check the desired nutrient composition that you want, the size of the feed that you are offering. So all these things should be checked properly. Dry microparticulate diet: preparation of a water stable matrix of dry ingredients or a mixture of dry, moist and wet ingredients, followed by suitable drying. Maybe you can go for freeze drying, you can go for vacuum drying or oven drying, grinding and sieving to get desired particles. So you will have to choose appropriate ingredients, mix them properly, dry, wet, depending on your requirement, and then after doing this, then you have to dry them, make crumbles if you need, and then sieve to get the desired particle size for feeding the larvae. This is the most widely used type of artificial diet for larval rearing, this dry microparticulate diet. Spray dried diets: well mixed, finely Ground materials are sprayed into air and then dried. Particles ranging in size 50 to 100 microns are produced and they can be offered to the fish larvae. Then we have another category of these diets, microbound diets. These are powdered diets with a binder, So that you can offer to the fish, like you can add carrageenan, agar, zine, alaginic acid, gelatin. So depending on which one you have used, the diets can be named accordingly. Micro-coated diets. These diets are prepared by coating microbound diets with some materials such as zine and cholesterol lecithin. That will be in the category of micro-coated diets. Then we have flake diets. Flake diets, prepared through a double drum dryer processing unit, is a potential feed for fish. Flakes can be reduced to small particle size, whatever you need, by grinding and sieving without reducing the basic stability characteristics. So that is a very important criteria, that you are from the flake you are producing the particles of desired size. Ingestion rates of the feed could be enhanced by using suitable binders, flavors and colors. Then as a kind of top dressing, you can use something in order to increase, enhance the quality of that flake diet. So that is also very good option. Then we have micro encapsulated diets. The concept of miniature packaging assemble a micro capsule in which liquids or particulate dietary components are enclosed in a carefully engineered wall, which release under specific macro or micro environmental conditions, has broad applications in fish. This micro encapsulated diet, if packaged properly, this can be utilized by the aquatic organism in specific environments, and that releases the nutrients having all its composition intact. Release of the internal nutrient components at active sites can be accomplished by enzymatic action, rupture. The capsulated environment thus minimizing organic load in the system, and alteration in oxygen and pH levels may not be noticed if using this kind of diet, having proper packaging in the encapsulated form. Depending upon the capsule's wall material, what kind of wall material has been used in the preparation of microencapsulated diet, there may be nylon protein microencapsulated diet, gelatin gum acacia microencapsulated diet. So whatever material you have used in preparing the wall of the capsule, accordingly the name can be given. Egg albumin microencapsulated diet, and then glycopeptide and chitosan microencapsulated diet. Now come to fry feeds. Once larvae are actively feeding and reach a weight of 0.5 to 0.75 gram, they can be switched from a larval feed to fry feed. I must tell you that getting your larvae feed on artificial diet is a significant challenge, and if you are able to master this, then your hatchery operation will be very successful, or it's not like you have to go only for this. You can even go for live feed culture and provide the live food for, especially in the initial stages, you can provide the live food and then gradually switch over to the artificial food. So the feeding strategy is all yours. You have all the options. You can utilize these concepts, whatever is being told to you, in order to come up with some strategy which may be even more successful than whatever has been explained, whatever is available in the literature. So aware of all the concepts and all the methods, and then go for your own strategy depending on the species, depending on the conditions. You can have your own strategy. So fry feeds, from when the larvae reaches to 0.5 to 0.75 gram stage. Dry fry feeds have traditionally been produced by crumbled compressed particles and screening the particles to appropriate sizes. So, crumbled compressed particles, they are screened and we get the desired size. Whatever size you are looking for, you can use that screen. Fry feeds for most species are formulated to contain relatively high levels of protein, since nearly all species of fish require high levels of dietary protein as fry, regardless of their protein requirements at later life history stages. This is considered as one of the that life stage where the growth is very rapid. So they require nutrients at a very in a very balanced proportion, and especially the protein content should be very high. So that means you should be very careful because this should be very costly also. At the fry stage, the greatest relative gains in growth can be made for the least total feed investment. So the FCR that you are getting, the better FCR you are getting at this place, if you are using the proper type of feed to feed these fry, then ultimately that is going to influence the economic viability of your aquaculture operation in a significant manner. Type of feeds for fry, they can be crumbles and paste, flakes. The feed size is around 0.8 millimeter, generally dry or maybe semi-moist if you are having proper storage facility and quality can be ensured. Fingerling feeds. So fry feeds, I must tell you that there it was written semi-moist feed can also be given. But if you are using moist or semi-moist feed, then their storage sometimes becomes problem. The moisture content that can invite some kind of microbial growth, and that may ultimately spoil your feed. So you will have to be very careful that the feed you are providing should be fresh and should not have any microbial contamination or pathogenic infestation. Now, fingerling feeds, the next stage. The general practice in fish feed formulation is to reduce the amount of dietary protein in feed with the progress in age of the fish. So when fish are in 10 to 100 gram weight category, they are fed fingerling diets. Semi-moist pellet sizes of 1.2 to 2.4 millimeter. Again, everything is related to the developmental stage, and you see here that the pellet size is increasing. Why? Because mouth size is also increasing. And dry compressed feeds are fed as crumbles to smaller fish as 2.4 to 3.0 millimeter pellets to larger fish. So depending on the size, you will have to adjust the pellet size also, and you will have to take appropriate measures in order to ensure the quality of the diet also. That whatever nutrient you are providing to the fish, that must be consumed by the fish intact. Growth rates are higher during this stage than in the later stage of the life cycle. As the fish progresses in age, growth rate slows down. Thus, it is essential to ensure that the growth potential of this fish is realized by feeding a diet that is fortified with limiting amino acids and vitamins. In fact, this is something that we should take care of in all the life stages. What we are mainly concerned with, protein. While feeding protein with practical diets, you automatically get some fat and mineral requirement that may not be nutritionally balanced, but you are getting something. But if you are not adding, usually in supplementary feeding, farmers do not add any vitamin premix or mineral premix. That is not acceptable. That should be there in all the feed of all life stages of the fish. So we should take care of, and since this is fingerling stage is very important as far as fast growth taking place, so we should take care of these things. Grower feeds are formulated to promote efficient and economical growth of fish from the fingerling stage to market size. Whatever marketable size is there at your place for a specific fish species, that varies from species to species. For slow growers, market size is something different. For fast growers, market size is something different. So depending on which species you are growing, you can come up with the specific type of feed. So the feed provided to this stage is known as grower feed. Formulation of feed for these fish contain less protein compared to the previous stage and more energy than fingerling feeds. The majority of feed fed during a production cycle, often more than 90%, is fed during the grower stage. That is something to consider, because when the fish come to the grower stage, after fingerling stage you can say, then they are having more weight. Although growth rate has declined, but they have increased in weight. And that means by weight, if their food requirement, food ration with respect to percent of their body weight has decreased, maybe even 3% of their body weight if they are consuming, since body weight has increased, so that 3% is also significant. That is huge quantity. So in this stage, you may be putting in lot of food, in terms of quantity to the fish. You will be providing large quantity of feed to these fishes. So most fish nutrition research has also focused on this type of feed because of the massive quantities required during production. Because if we are able to control the food, requirement food being offered to this fish during this stage, then it's not, say in early stages if we were offering only 10 kilogram, but now if we have to offer 100 kilogram, so whether protein percentage has come down or not, that will have an impact on economic value. But when large quantities of the feed is being offered, then there may be significant loss if you are not taking care of all these steps that we have talked about for preparing nutritionally balanced diet, which must be consumed properly by the fish and digested and assimilated properly in time. So that is some of the some area of concern on which there are a lot of researches which have provided, in order to reduce the quantity of food that can be offered. So in order to reduce the quantity of protein, or you can say the optimal protein quantity or food quantity, as well as quality, you will have to, keeping the quality intact, how quantity can be reduced in order to get the optimal growth. So you will find a lot of research papers on all major commercially important fish species or other aquatic organism, shrimps also. Feed cost and feed conversion ratio are very important factors to consider when selecting grower feed because of large quantity of feed requirement. Small changes in feed cost or FCR can have major impact on profitability of fish farm. I told you that, say for example, you are providing 100 kilogram of feed and 2% of 100 kilogram or 3% of their body weight, how you calculate the ration size, that will make huge difference. And if you are providing 100 kilogram daily, then what about the entire year? So ultimately that is going to influence the economic viability or profitability of the farm. So we should be very careful. Broodstock feeds. Usually we do not provide, traditional farmers, they do not provide separate food for the broodstocks. They simply, select some fast growing individuals from the same stock of grower, which were being provided grower feeds. So from the stocking pond only, they do not culture broodstock separately. Somatic growth continues uninterrupted in most species until a combination of external and internal factors initiate gonadal maturation or sexual maturation. Fishes, usually they are seasonal breeders, so the gonadal development will start in a specific time of the year. And when gonadal development starts, for example, in Indian major calves, then what will happen? The energy partitioning within the body, the priority of the partitioning or channelization of energy, that changes. The whatever dietary energy the fish is having, the first it will be utilized for maintenance, of course. Then after that, for gonadal maturation. If any energy is left, only then it will be used for growth of the fish or somatic growth of the fish. So entire priority changes, and gonadal growth or gonadal maturation process has some other kind of nutritional demands than getting overall somatic growth. So, keeping in view that what kind of nutrients may be required for gonadal maturation in order to get good reproductive performance of that particular species, we should come up with a separate formulation of broodstock diets and prepare broodstock diet accordingly. So, that is one of the very important steps that we should take care while preparing broodstock diet. The temporal aspects of sexual maturation process in fish are variable, proceeding for weeks or months depending on the species. We all know that there are certain species which mature at a very early age. Some species may have maybe more than one cycle of breeding in 1 year. Some may be attaining first maturity in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or there are certain who attain maturity in maybe 8, 9, 10 years or more. So, depending on the fish which you are culturing, the broodstock of that fish, you will have to, take up the decision of providing what kind of diet, having what kind of nutrient which is required for the gonadal maturation. During sexual maturation, somatic growth slows and gonadal growth accelerates until the fish spawns, that we all know. In many species of cultured fish, feeding almost ceases during part or all of the maturation and spawning process. If the fish is a species that survives spawning, feeding then begins again sometime after spawning. It's not like altogether feeding stops in most of the fishes, no. But whenever if slight feeding is occurring, then that is usually for the maintenance purpose. So that is sometimes problematic, and that is why, because nutrients may also be channelized from the somatic tissues to gonadal maturation, and somatic tissues in the maturation phase may have poor nutrient content compared to immature stages, and that is why it is usually suggested not to consume the mature fish. Type of feeds on the basis of moisture content. What kind of feeds we are having? Wet feeds, moist feeds, semi-moist feeds, dry feeds. Depending on the moisture content that you can understand here very easily. Wet feeds containing moisture levels in the range of 45 to 70% or prepared from high moisture contents ingredients, high moisture ingredients such as trash fish, fishery waste, slaughterhouse waste, etc. These feeds are made at the farm on a day-to-day basis and fed mainly to carnivorous fish such as Clarias species, sea bass, sea bream, eels, etc. So, wet feeds, whenever you are preparing wet feeds or using wet feeds, you will have to be very careful that these wet feeds are consumed fresh. Because storing them will invite many kind of problems. So, that they should be prepared on farm and offered to the fish. The storage part should be avoided. If you have proper storage facilities, you can go for a few days, otherwise it should be avoided. Moist feeds contain moisture level in the range of 25 to 45% and are made from a mixture of high moisture ingredients, as in case of wet feeds and dry pulverized ingredients. So, when you are preparing feed outside, artificial feed is being prepared, then moisture level or other things that can be manipulated, that can be kept at the desired level. We have semi-moist feeds with moisture content in the range of 15 to 25% and have a minor contribution from high moisture ingredients. So, you can either use ingredients in such a manner that you do not need to add any water or something in order to control the moisture content. Depending on what type of ingredient you are using, you can prepare these diets. The major disadvantages of wet, moist and semi-moist feeds. What are the major disadvantages? The transportation and storage under refrigeration until used to prevent the spoilage. So, I told you that if you are using this, try to use them fresh. Irregular availability of fresh raw fish, and that is a challenge because whether raw fish or animal waste, its supply is not guaranteed, regular supply, and the quantity of ingredient that you will need at the desired time is not guaranteed. So that is a big challenge, and you need to feed your fish daily. Introduction of pathogens, particularly from fishery waste, if not adequately pasteurized, that is a big problem. That if you are getting such kind of animal products, wet animal products, then they may be having many type of microbes or other kind of pathogens which may be harmful to the fish. Improper transportation and storage damage contain certain labile vitamins. If you are not storing it properly, if you are not transporting it properly, then certain labile vitamins and lipids may be damaged and favor propagation of fungi and bacteria in such feeds. Unconsumed feed may affect the water quality. You are using wet, raw, aquatic animal products like that of fish or animal waste. So that is, if the feed is left in the aquatic system, that is going to spoil the aquatic system. Water quality will be adversely impacted. Dry feeds contain moisture in the range of 7 to 13%. They are relatively easy to manufacture, transport, store, and convenient to dispense in the culture system. They are probably the most popular feed which is being provided to aquaculture organisms. Other advantages include bulk purchase and storage of ingredients that you can purchase them, and storing them is not a big problem compared to the other type of feeds that we have talked about. And select a wide range of ingredients with the specific nutritional characteristics. You have a lot of options. Dry feeds can be produced in different sizes to suit the specific needs of the larvae to specialized diets for broodstock. Whichever stage you are talking of, you can use these dry feeds. Dry feeds also permit production of specialized feeds such as medicated feeds incorporated with specific medicine or antibiotics. Any kind of manipulation, dietary manipulation, hormonal manipulation, whatever you wish to do in dry feeds, that is easier than those feeds that we have talked earlier. And here the chances of microbial infestation or pathogenic attack is also less compared to the other type of foods that we have talked. So these are the advantages. We can use many type of dietary incorporations in order to produce monosex individuals or growth promotion or inducing maturation in the aquatic organisms. Dry feeds may be either prepared using dry ingredients alone or a mixture of wet and dry ingredients adequately processed and dried. Dry feeds may be made as meals, pellets, granules, flakes, etc. So depending on what kind of feed do you want, you can prepare. So these are some examples of the dry feeds which are shown to you. That's all in this lecture. Thank you so much.